Okay, so I hope you can hear me. Dog's barking. Received a lot of emails recently about the lesson plan, and there's just so much that I want to share with you that this format and the current pandemic don't allow, with face to face and those kinds of things. And I understand that your life is, we're all dealing with this, so that's why I'm here. I was in the middle of a workout just thinking about you guys, and it's a pandemic, so I really didn't care about the surroundings, and I just wanted to get you the information. First and foremost, you're going to be successful on this lesson plan. Okay, it's designed for you to be successful, so there's no stress about, am I going to fail? Am I going to not fail? Am I going to succeed? Oh my God, what's going to happen? Just get rid of all that. This whole resubmission thing and additional submissions if we need it are designed to, you're going to succeed. Okay, so get rid of that. Now, one thing I want to say is I totally recognize that the level of detail and thoroughness that we're going through in this lesson plan that I want you to do is not something that more than likely you're going to be doing out in the field on a daily basis. Totally get that. I'm not living in the dark and think that's what's going on. But this process is necessary for you to experience the instructional design process and develop some understanding of how we do it properly. Because you got to have that foundation and that basis in order to cut corners and do a lot of other things that happen out in the field that I totally get. Especially now with what's going on with online or hybrid and switching back and forth, and who knows when we're going to be back to normal, and what is normal and what's the new normal, all that kind of stuff. So one thing I want you to take away from this is understanding that we design instruction in order to do it properly, right? We decide what we're going to teach, standards, objectives, those kinds of things, right? Then we decide how are we going to assess that, right? Then we design an assessment that effectively measures performance on what we want to teach, right? The objective, the behaviors. And then we design instruction for mastery on the assessment. If we do that in that order, we keep the alignment, then that term teaching to the test that has negative connotations, and I totally get the negative connotations, but in the purest sense, that's exactly what you do when you're designing effective instruction. You design an assessment that's aligned with the objectives, you design instruction that's aligned with the assessment, and you're teaching to the test. But I get the negative use of it. The table of specifications. Let's just cut through the chase on this. Okay, so standardized assessments have a level of validity and reliability built into them through field testing and statistical analysis, all that kind of stuff. Teacher-developed tests have zero validity and reliability. So the table of specifications is just a tool I wanted you to be familiar with that you can use to look at your teacher-developed test, right? Okay, so very, very simple. There's two versions. Okay, one deals with the mind and the emotion and the physical, right? The learning domains. One deals with Bloom's. Typically, Bloom's is the one that applies to you, but not always. Like Quincy with his foul shots and those kinds of things. So the table of specifications is just, you go write your assessment, right? And then on the left-hand column of table of specifications, you kind of divide your assessment up into sections. Okay, it could be one section, it could be an essay test, maybe just one section, right? Or it could be an essay test, but you're evaluating certain elements of the essay, voice, right? Sentence structure, stuff like that. So you decide sections, right? And then go through your test, look at question 1 and say, okay, I'm asking them to list 3 things, and I think that's low on Bloom, so I'm going to put comprehension on, put a little check on the table of specifications, right? Or question number if you want to do that. Some kind of mark. Then go through every question on your test, however many that may be, or every thing you're asking them to do on the test. It may not be a question, it could be a prompt or whatever. Mark on blooms everywhere where each question falls, and then when you're done, sit back and look at the table of specifications and say, okay, looks like I'm asking them to perform primarily on lower level blooms, and that's really not what I intended. Or you look at it and say, okay, that's exactly what I intended, looks good, great. So you just respond accordingly. If you like what you see, move on. If you don't like what you see, it's a reflective tool to make some changes to get more in line with what you intended. So it's just a tool to try to help infuse a little reliability and validity into your teacher-developed assessments. That's all. Looks super complicated. It isn't. There's no wrong or right answer, okay? Because it's your reflection and your intention of what you want to do on your test and what you perceive it's doing. I'm not really judging that. I just want you to be familiar with it. So I'm less concerned about you turning in a table of specifications that is accurate, right? Or even turning one in at all. I'm more concerned about you understanding the tool that you could potentially use in the future. So I'd rather you didn't turn it in and understand how to use it at some point, or I'd rather you do that than turn it in and put a bunch of checks on there and have no idea what you're doing. Okay, there's a lot more I'd like to share, but that's the gist of it. You will succeed. The order, the detail of the lesson plan. Oh, detail. Well, a lot of people have asked about that. The primary thing I'm trying to get across is I want you to go through the process, right? So what is the lesson plan? Okay, in its purest form, it's a piece of paper that you wrote for you, right? So it's sitting on your desk or your podium or wherever, right? And it's a reference for you to make sure that first period and third period and fifth period that you're consistently doing the same thing and you're not forgetting things. You know how it is, things in the heat of the moment, right? So in the details of the input, right, if you have a paragraph narrative, it doesn't provide much use for you in the heat of the moment, like to reach over, right, and check. So, brief bullets seem to be easier for you to just check. Okay, yeah, I got it. All right. And boom, you're back in business. That's my advice. And when I say detail, I as a litmus test, even though you're not writing it for someone else, but as a litmus test, if somebody qualified picks it up, can they implement it, right? Can they go to your input and do what it says and be ready to go, or are there going to be questions, right? It says, I'm going to explain such and such. All right, well, what are you going to explain? Like, give a brief little outline, right? Documents, PowerPoints, what are they called? Right? Key questions you want to ask, things like that. So it's just some detail that somebody qualified could do, because I want you to, because what happens is we get in this rut where we just create these things and 90% of it's in our head and we know that, so when we're writing it, we're just kind of going through the motions, right? And we're not really processing it. So I just want you to go through the complete exhaustive process and think about it and get everything down. At least once, right? At least once. Same thing with modeling. Now modeling, I talked to a lot of you guys about this, but modeling for some of you is super, super easy, right? If you're saying, I'm going to teach them how to solve for X, right? You can model that 50 million times and then give them a test to solve for X with different numbers and formulas, and you're assessing them, right? And you model appropriately and all that stuff. Gets a little more difficult or different or complicated when you get into the soft sciences like I was, where maybe you're going to have an essay, right? And where we get disconnected a lot of times on the modeling is not focusing on, okay, modeling is you showing them what the end result is and what an acceptable end result looks like, the expected outcomes, the behaviors in your objective, what you want them to produce. It's not about them doing anything, okay? It's not about putting them in groups and doing something. It's about you showing them. It could be a video showing, it could be an artifact showing them, it could be you going through the process of solving for X and showing them and modeling. Lots of different ways to model, but with an essay or something, sometimes it's not appropriate for you to model exactly what you're telling them to do, because then you've done it for them, right? So you've produced the only outcome that can happen, in a sense, right? Not like solving for X. So sometimes it's helpful to parallel model, right? So if you're going to model on 3 causes of something in a piece of writing, is there a parallel work that everyone's familiar with that you could use to demonstrate? Maybe, maybe not. Is there a generic TV show, right? Or an episode of something, or a nursery rhyme, or something that we're familiar with, something simple that you can model the process, okay, of identifying the themes and providing an outline and providing an essay. And it doesn't have to happen at the same time. Like, all the modeling doesn't have to happen like right now. Okay, this is modeling, and then we don't model over here, and we don't model over here, and we don't model tomorrow. Okay, the modeling on your lesson plan is just a cumulative. What elements of your plan do you plan on doing to model the outcome? So you can model like parallel outcomes that give them a picture of the process of what you're doing and what the outcome's going to look like without the exact same thing. Okay, so that's one thing. Number 2, when Madeline Hunter created this lesson plan, and every lesson plan you'll find anywhere in the world is fundamentally based in Madeline Hunter's essential elements of instruction. No matter what they call it or how they twist it or whatever, it's all fundamentally based on that. Okay. All this stuff runs together. Okay? Right? So, when you're implementing, you're not implementing in isolation. Totally get that. She separated these elements: guided practice, anticipatory set, independent practice, input, modeling, all these kinds of things, closure, because she wanted you to focus on ensuring that was an element of your plan, okay? But I get it, during input especially, okay, there's going to be independent practice and guided practice molded in, and modeling is going to happen, and so you're pulling from everything in implementation. But in design, okay, you're putting it here so that you individually make sure that you have these components, and those components are specifically addressed, and so you got the whole package, right? Okay, so I really look at the lesson plan in three components, really, right? You've got the assessment objectives in that alignment part, okay? You've got the instructional components, which is everything from the input to modeling, guided practice, independent practice, closure, all these kinds of things, right? And then you've got a third element, which is the anticipatory set. In design, I see those as 3 separate clumps, right? That come in order, okay? So objective and assessment come before instruction, those components, right? And then an anticipatory set is kind of off on its own. It can come whenever a good idea comes to you. It's the most difficult part, I think. Sometimes a good lesson can come from an anticipatory set idea. Sometimes an anticipatory set comes somewhere in the middle. Sometimes it comes to you at the end. Sometimes it doesn't come at all, okay? Because I view the anticipatory set as loosely connected to the lesson. Loosely, what do I mean? Well, to me, the fundamental purpose of the anticipatory set is to grab that kid's attention in the back of the room who doesn't care about your class, right? To be honest, right? To make him look up and go, hey, what's going on, right? So it's the job of the anticipatory set to capture the attention, and it's the job of the instruction to maintain it, Okay, that's it. Anticipatory set. It's not a bell ringer. It's not busy work. That doesn't capture anybody's attention. Okay? By the way, busy work, bell work, is simply something at least semi-productive to engage students while the teacher takes care of house cleaning things like taking attendance and those kinds of things, right? Instead of them sitting there throwing pencils at each other, right? They have a dedicated responsibility to do something. Now, it's hopefully productive, okay? But that's bell work, to keep you busy while I punch in the attendance and respond to this or do whatever I got to do in the beginning, right? My responsibilities. Okay, that's bell work. That is not an anticipatory set in no shape or form. Anticipatory set is to get that kid's attention and make him look at you and think, okay, what's going on, right? So, is it important that it's connected to the instruction that follows? Well, yeah, I mean, you want to be relevant, right? But it doesn't have to be aligned and perfectly connected like all the other elements. No, I don't think so. Okay, so think outside the box. Dazzle, display, a video clip, whatever, crazy things. If it's connected in some way and engaging, right, then it's done its job. It's the job of the instruction to maintain the attention. Okay, I've gone on quite a bit, and I hope this file is not too big to upload, and I'm sorry for the environment, but I wanted to get this to you really quick because I've just been thinking a lot about you, and I wanted to tell you those things. So, that's it. Good luck, stay safe, and we're all going through this thing, and it affects us all differently, and I understand. So I hope you and your family are safe. I hope you're dealing with everything, in the best way that you can. Don't stress about being successful. Like I said on this lesson plan, it's designed for you to be successful. I just want you to go through the process. So thanks.